To make a simple wrist warmer, you don't need a pattern. Believe me, you don't need a pattern. Just make a length of chain. You do, however, need to make a note of how many stitches you've used and how many rows you've done, so that you can make sure your second wrist warmer, because most of us need two, make sure that you do the second one identical. Just do a length of chain and measure it on your hand. So you want that, let's go back a bit, oops, sorry, my wrinkly old hands there. Take my hook out, it'll be easier. So it depends how you want your wrist warmer to look, how big you want it, how much of your hand you want it to cover. Just measure from, say, your mid finger to part way down your wrist. That seems about right. And choose a stitch, whatever stitch you want. If you're going to do trebles, add a couple more chain for your turning chain. But I'm going to use what I think is the best for a wrist warmer. Oh, look at my thumb. I've just eaten an orange, and it's all full of orange juice in my fingernails. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to start with a row of double crochet, and if you're American, of course, you don't call it double crochet, you call it single crochet. And always with double crochet you begin by working into the second chain from your hook, and I'm going to work all the way along and do one row of double crochet. So that's the first row done, and I've just done one chain to turn, and I'm going to do, as I said, a double crochet rib, which is very easy. Normally when you do double crochet, you insert your hook into there, and you've got 2 threads above. To do a double crochet rib, you insert your hook into the back loop only of each stitch. Into the back loop of the next stitch, and all the way along into the back loop. This will give a nice stretchy fabric, so that it has a little bit of give when you come to wear it. So you can make it just slightly too small, and then it will stretch to fit your hand and stay in place without slipping off. Just need some more yarn. Into the back loop every time. Your first row is just normal double crochet when you're working into your foundation chain. into the back loop. You do the same on every row. One chain to turn, turn it round, and again into the first stitch. Keep going until your fabric is the right size to fit comfortably round your hand with a little bit of a stretch. So there you can see the rib starting to form. And as I said, you just carry on until you've got it big enough to wrap around your hand. And what I did forget to say was, as you started, leave a good long length of yarn at the beginning, because you'll be using that to sew up the seam. And also make sure you do an odd number of rows. I'll show you why in the next video. Okay, so I told a little bit of a porcupine lie earlier. I said you needed an odd number of rows, you need an even number of rows. Silly me, sorry about that. Anyway, I've done about 20, actually exactly 28 rows. And I think there's 22 stitches along the top there. And that is just big enough to fit round my hand. With a little bit of a stretch is what you want. And the reason why you need an even number of rows is because you've left a long end at the beginning, and you're going to leave a long end when you're finished. So you will cut that off and thread it through there and finish off. And another little confession, I'm out and about at the moment and I've forgotten my sewing up needle, so I'm just going to have to describe what you do. Begin, obviously that will be finished off, begin by using this length and just do an overcast stitch down to where you want the thumb hole to start. So you'll sew down to there. If you want it higher up your hand, you sew a bit more. If you want it quite low down your hand, you sew it a little bit less. Okay, when you've done that, you sew up the bottom and leave a hole big enough for your thumb to fit through. Easy as that. I'll go home shortly and I'll sew that up when I've found a needle, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I've found my needle. Well done me. Well, it's not the right needle, it's a bit big, but it'll do. And I've cut the end off, left a nice long piece for sewing. Thread it through, finish it off, and then we need to sew. Thread the needle and just do an overcast stitch. As I said, it depends how much you want your hand covered, how much you want your wrist covered, how far you stitch down. So trial and error. We'll just do a few stitches there, just a little way down. See what that looks like. Hand in. That looks just about right. You don't need to do much sewing for this. So we'll just go over and over in the same place a couple of times to secure it darn that end in. To make it neat. Cut it off. Give a little pull and that little end will disappear. Same at the bottom. I don't believe I've lost my needle. Get there it is. Thread your needle up. A few overcast stitches, just catching the loops. Let's just see what that's like. I want to put my hand in. Quite a big gap there, it might be too big, I don't know. Maybe just a couple more stitches there. Again, just over a couple of times in the same place to secure it. Darn that end in. If you pull it tight a little bit and cut it just past the end, then when you pull, that little end sticking up should just disappear inside there. Turn it the right way round. There you have it. A little hand warmer. As I said, you can make it longer if you like, or shorter. If you want your wrist covered a bit more, do some more. Make your rows a bit longer. You can make it a bit fancier, maybe do a row of a couple of rows of double crochet there in another colour, or what would be really nice would be some nice fluffy yarn around the bottom, around the top, and maybe around here to make it a bit classier. But so easy to do, and you don't need a pattern.